So this tutorial is on the inferior mesenteric artery, and this kind of follows on from the previous tutorial I did on the superior mesenteric artery. So the inferior mesenteric artery is this artery right at the bottom here, and this comes off anteriorly on the abdominal aorta and slightly to the left. So above it you've got the superior mesenteric artery and you've got the celiac axis, which supply the other gut structures. So the inferior mesenteric artery originates on the aorta at roughly the level of lumbar vertebra L3. So remember the aorta bifurcates at L4, so just a little bit above this you've got the inferior mesenteric artery. So the inferior mesenteric artery vascularizes the hindgut structures, and I'll just switch to a diagram to illustrate some of its branches. So we're looking here at a diagram which shows the abdominal aorta, and you can see the inferior mesenteric artery coming off here. This vessel on the right is the superior mesenteric artery, and you can see it vascularizing the ascending colon, the transverse colon, and the small parts of the small intestine here. So the inferior mesenteric artery has three main branches. The first branch is this one here that comes off at the top. It's the left colic artery, and you can see it divides into this ascending branch and descending branch. So the ascending branch ascends to anastomose with the right branch of the middle colic artery. So the ascending branch vascularizes part of the descending colon, and it then goes intraperitoneal into the transverse mesocolon and vascularizes the distal third of the transverse colon. So the descending branch descends along the descending colon and sends off branches to supply the descending colon, and it anastomoses with the next branch down. So just below the left colic artery you've got several vessels which come off the inferior mesenteric artery, and these are the sigmoidal arteries, and you've got quite a few of these. So these form these arcades, and they vascularize the distal part of the descending colon, and as the name suggests, the sigmoid colon as well. So these vessels enter the sigmoid mesocolon to supply the sigmoid colon and the lowest parts of the descending colon. So the last branch we've got is the superior rectal artery. So this is the terminal branch of the inferior mesenteric artery, and it supplies the distal part of the sigmoid colon, and as the name suggests, it supplies the proximal rectum. So I'll switch over to the 3D model and show you the course that the superior rectal artery takes. So we're looking here at a model with the skeleton and also the artery. So I haven't got the veins in this model. So the inferior mesenteric artery can be seen here at the level of lumbar vertebra L3. You've got the left colic artery coming off first, and then you've got these various sigmoidal arteries, and then distally you've got this terminal branch. So this is the superior rectal artery, and it crosses over the common iliac vessels. So the veins aren't in this model, but the inferior vena cava and the common iliac vein would be seen here. So the superior rectal artery actually crosses over these vessels and it empties the pelvic cavity. So I've just brought in the viscera, and I'm going to rotate round to the back, and you can see this is the superior rectal artery coming over the end of the colon and towards the rectum, and you can see that it splits into these two branches and it descends down the sides of the rectum. So you can see that here. So I've just brought back in this skeleton, and if I zoom in a little bit further you can see So this is the superior rectal artery, and you can see that it divides here, and this is the level of S3. So you can see the body of S3 lies at the level where the superior rectal artery splits into its two divisions. So that's the inferior mesenteric artery. So it comes off at lumbar vertebra level L3, and it's got three main branches. It's got the left colic artery, which has an ascending and descending branch. The ascending branch ascends retroperitoneally, and it supplies the descending colon. It then enters into the transverse mesocolon to supply the distal third of the transverse colon. The descending branch goes inferiorly and supplies the lower part of the descending colon, and it anastomoses with the sigmoid arteries. So the sigmoid arteries, there's quite a few of these which come off below the left colic artery, and these supply the sigmoid colon obviously, and the right at the distal part of the descending colon. And then finally we've got the superior rectal artery, which supplies the distal sigmoid colon and the proximal rectum, and it has two branches. So it splits at the level of this body of S3, and it crosses from the abdominal cavity into the pelvic cavity. So that's the inferior mesenteric artery.